The desert air in Phoenix shimmered like glass the afternoon I came home. I had been away for 15 days, a bus trip to visit my sister in Flagstaff, and as I unlocked the front door, the familiar click didn't sound quite right. The smell hit me first: fresh paint, citrus cleaner, and an expensive perfume that wasn't mine. I left my suitcase by the entryway, my shoes creaking on the newly polished floor. Something was wrong. The air itself felt occupied. I walked down the hallway, every step heavy, the silence pressing closer. When I reached my bedroom door, I noticed it was half open, just a sliver of light spilling through. My heart stuttered. I pushed it open and froze. My mahogany bed, the one I'd bought 25 years ago with the overtime from the diner, was gone. In its place stood a modern white bed, dressed in sterile linens and decorative pillows that looked ripped from a magazine. The peach walls I'd painted myself were now a lifeless gray. The photographs that once watched over me, my wedding day, my kids in Halloween costumes, my late husband smiling from another lifetime, had vanished. The room didn't know me anymore. "Well?" A voice slid in behind me, sugary and sharp. "Vanessa." My daughter-in-law leaned against the doorframe in a wine-colored dress, her nails the shade of blood. "What do you think? We redecorated. This room just had the best light, you know? More space. Perfect for us." I turned slowly, meeting her smile that never reached her eyes. "Where are my things?" "In the garage," she said, shrugging. "Everything's safe, don't worry. We thought you'd be more comfortable downstairs, in the guest room. It's smaller, but at your age, stairs can be tricky." Every word landed like a slap. I swallowed the anger burning my throat. "At my age," I repeated softly. She nodded, proud of herself, like she'd done me a favor. "You'll see, it's cozier. Besides, Ryan and I need space. We're thinking about starting a family soon." Her words crawled over me like ants. My son's wife, in my room, in my husband's bed. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just looked her in the eye. "You want a space all to yourself?" Vanessa smirked, thinking she'd won. "Of course." "Perfect," I said evenly. "Then you can start looking for a new house today." The color drained from her face. "Excuse me?" "You heard me," I replied, stepping past her. "This house is mine. Bought with my money, my hands, my life. You redecorate what you own, not what you're borrowing." She opened her mouth to speak, but Ryan appeared in the hallway, rubbing his eyes like a boy caught sneaking out. "What's going on?" I stared at him. The son I'd raised alone after his father died. The boy I'd fed, clothed, prayed over. "Your wife turned my room into hers." He avoided my gaze, staring at the floor. "Mom, it's not a big deal. We just wanted to make the place nicer. We spent $15,000 on this." "15,000?" My voice cracked. "With what money?" "Our savings," he mumbled, scratching the back of his neck. A lie. I'd seen that nervous gesture since he was 5. My heart sank. That night I tried to sleep in the hard guest bed. I could hear them upstairs, laughing, in my room. The laughter dissolved into muffled voices, then silence, then something worse. The rhythmic creak of the bed frame I'd chosen with my husband. I stared at the ceiling, eyes burning, hands clenched beneath the blanket. I had never felt so erased. By 4 a.m., I gave up on sleep. I went to the kitchen, made chamomile tea, and sat alone under the dim light. The clock on the wall, the same one Lewis had given me for our 10th anniversary, ticked like a heartbeat. Ryan's footsteps shuffled behind me. "Mom," he said quietly, "please don't be angry. We were just trying to help." "Help?" I asked, my voice trembling. "By throwing away my life?" He sighed, poured himself water, and said nothing more. When he left, I sat there a long time, the tea gone cold, the clock still ticking. Something inside me shifted that night. Not broken, hardened. I realized this wasn't about a room. It was about respect, about survival, about not disappearing in the very house I built. When dawn crept over the windows, I took a deep breath, reached for my old phone, and dialed a number I hadn't used in months. My daughter answered on the third ring. "Mom, is everything okay?" "No, honey," I said softly. "It's not. I need you to come home." And as the sun rose over the desert, I promised myself I wouldn't cry again. The next time someone tried to erase me, they'd remember the woman who refused to vanish. 2 days later, the doorbell rang, just as I was wiping flour from my hands. Vanessa had invited her friends for a little lunch. She'd asked me, no, ordered me, to cook enchiladas and make the table look pretty. I did it, silent, because sometimes silence is sharper than shouting. They arrived in clouds of perfume and laughter. 4 of them, all shiny hair and expensive handbags. Voices pitched just high enough to echo through the house. I stayed in the kitchen, plating food, pretending not to exist. "Your home is gorgeous, Vanessa," one of them said. "So modern." Vanessa's reply carried through the doorway. "Well, it needed a woman's touch. My mother-in-law's style was dated." Laughter, like silverware scraping a plate. When she called out, "Mother-in-law, bring the enchiladas to the living room, please," my hands trembled. I carried the tray anyway, my smile stitched tight. The women stared at me as I served them. One, wearing oversized sunglasses indoors, said brightly, "And you're Ryan's mom, right? How convenient to have live-in help." My stomach twisted. Before I could speak, Vanessa answered, calm as a knife. "She helps around the house. We give her room and board. Family helping family, you know." Their laughter sliced through me. I wanted to drop the plates. Instead, I collected the empty dishes and carried them back to the kitchen, my eyes burning. That was when I heard another voice, familiar, firm, cutting through the noise. "Interesting definition of family you've got there." I turned. My daughter stood in the doorway, suitcase in hand. Lily. She'd come home early. Her sharp brown eyes swept the room, and in an instant, everything inside me, the humiliation, the rage, the exhaustion, uncoiled. "Lily," I whispered. She didn't look at me. She looked at Vanessa. "You must be the decorator." Vanessa blinked. "Excuse me?" Because only someone with no soul could turn a warm home into a showroom. The room fell silent. One of the friends coughed. Another picked up her purse. Lily dropped her suitcase with a thud that made the chandelier rattle. "This ends today," she said. Vanessa tried to recover her composure. "We were just having lunch. With the woman you treat like staff." Lily's voice didn't rise. It simply pressed down on the air. "Get comfortable, Vanessa. We're going to talk law." By evening, the house had changed temperature. Vanessa's friends had fled. Ryan sat on the couch, pale, his hands clasped like a child's. Lily spread her laptop and a neat pile of papers across the dining table. "I'm an attorney," she began. "And before anyone says this is just a misunderstanding, let me show you something." She played a recording from my old phone, the one I'd taken that night from the guest room window. Vanessa's voice spilled into the silence, bright and cruel. The old lady's confused. Ryan used the house as collateral. She won't even know until it's too late. Vanessa shot up from her chair. "You can't use that." "Sit down," Lily said, her tone cold as winter steel. "We're just getting started." She held up printed photos, invoices, receipts, highlighted legal notes, possession rights through improvements, forged signatures, unauthorized use of property. Sound familiar? Ryan buried his face in his hands. "Lily, please." "No, Ryan," she said. "You don't get to plead ignorance. You forged Mom's signature. That's felony-level fraud." His shoulders sagged. Vanessa's face had gone white. Then Lily laid down the final page, the original deed to the house. My husband's name faint beside mine. "This house belongs solely to my mother, not to you, not to your wife. Every penny came from her labor, And here's the spousal clause. No property changes without her notarized consent. Vanessa's lips parted, desperate. We just wanted to make it better. For everyone's good, Lily snapped. You mean for yours? You've been building a paper trail to steal what doesn't belong to you. I hadn't moved the entire time. My fingers traced the edge of the deed as if it were my pulse. When I finally spoke, my voice was calm again, the kind that made both of them look up. You want your own space, I said. Good. You'll have it. 48 hours. Then you're gone. Vanessa laughed weakly, but the sound cracked in half. Lily pushed a pen toward them. Sign this agreement. You forfeit any claim to this property, or I file charges Monday morning. Ryan stared at me, eyes wet. Mom, sign it, I said. He did. So did she. Their names bled onto the paper like stains that wouldn't wash out. When they left the table, Lily leaned back, exhaling. Paper cuts, she murmured. That's how justice works sometimes. I looked at the documents scattered across the table. Every receipt, every lie, every truth finally visible, and realized something. I wasn't invisible anymore. Not in this house. Not in my life. The sound of packing tape was the new soundtrack of my house. It screeched, tore, and sealed, over and over, until the rhythm sank into my bones. Boxes lined the hallway like tombstones. Ryan moved slowly, eyes down, every step heavy. Vanessa wrapped her crystal vases with the precision of a woman trying to keep control of something, anything. The same hands that once gestured arrogantly now trembled. Lily and I sat in the living room, silent watchers. We didn't gloat. We didn't need to. Justice has its own quiet gravity. The clock on the wall ticked loud enough to count the hours. 48. That was the deadline we'd given them. 2 days to leave, to disappear from the life they'd poisoned. Vanessa broke first. She slammed a drawer shut and turned to me, tears streaking her mascara. I hope you're happy. You've turned your son against me. I met her gaze calmly. No, Vanessa. You did that all by yourself. Her voice rose, cracking. You think you're some kind of saint? You've been controlling him his whole life. You don't know what it's like to live under your shadow, your sacrifice, your guilt trips, your endless reminders of what you've done for him. For a moment, the words stung, because somewhere, buried beneath her venom, was a splinter of truth. Maybe I had held on too tightly. Maybe love, when left unchecked, can become a chain. I'm not perfect, I said quietly. But loving my son isn't a crime. Forging my name is. Her jaw clenched, but she had no answer. Ryan came down the stairs carrying a box labeled photos. His eyes were red. Mom, please, he said, setting it on the floor. Don't make us leave like this. Like what? I asked. With the dignity I never got from you? He flinched, as if I'd slapped him. Lily closed her laptop with a decisive click. We've signed everything. The agreement is binding. At noon tomorrow, this house is yours alone again, Mom. Ryan sank onto the bottom step. His voice broke. I didn't mean to hurt you. I didn't know how to say no to her. The debts were yours, I interrupted. And yet somehow, I'm the one who almost paid the price. The silence that followed was suffocating. Even Vanessa stopped pretending to pack. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked the hallway, barefoot, tracing my fingers along the familiar walls. Every frame, every scratch, every corner told a story of what I had built with my hands. Downstairs, I heard Ryan and Vanessa arguing in whispers. Words like loan, fraud, ruined. I didn't feel triumph, just a heavy sadness, like mourning something that had already died. At dawn, I found Lily in the kitchen making coffee. She looked tired, but there was a fire in her eyes. We'll get through this, she said. I know, I replied, but he won't. She handed me a mug. That's his burden to carry now. When the sun climbed high, the house began to empty. Suitcases rolled. Doors slammed. Vanessa took one last look at the living room, the place she'd once claimed as hers. "You'll regret this," she whispered. I almost smiled. I already did, for years. Ryan lingered by the front door, his keys jingling in his hand. "Mom," he said softly, "can you forgive me?" I studied his face. The man who used to be my little boy, who once ran into my arms after scraping his knees. That boy was gone. What stood before me was someone I didn't recognize. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe someday, but not while you're still standing in my house." He nodded slowly, eyes wet. "Take care, Mom." I opened the door for them. They walked out into the harsh Arizona sunlight, each carrying a piece of their own undoing. I didn't follow them. I simply closed the door behind them, the latch clicking like a period at the end of a long, painful sentence. For the first time in months, the house was still. No perfume that wasn't mine. No voices cutting through the walls. Just quiet, thick, solid, sacred. Lily came to stand beside me. "It's over," she said. I looked at her, then around the empty room. "No," I whispered. "It's beginning." Outside, an engine started, then faded into the distance. Inside, the clock ticked once, twice, then seemed to exhale. 48 hours had passed. My home was mine again. The first morning after they left, the house felt too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your chest, heavy and unfamiliar. For years, I'd dreamed of peace, but this kind came with echoes. I walked through every room, touching the walls as if to remind them I was still here. Dust floated in the sunlight, pouring through the blinds, turning the air golden again. Lily stayed for the week. We worked like two women reclaiming sacred ground. We brought my old furniture up from the garage, my mother's dresser, the mahogany bed, the photo frames. The air smelled of dust, wood polish, and fresh paint. "We're giving this room its soul back," Lily said. She found the same peach shade I'd painted years ago, the one that glowed warm under the sunset. When we finished, I stood in the doorway, tears stinging my eyes. "It's home again," I whispered. In the evenings, we sat on the porch with lemonade and talked about everything except what had happened. But the truth lived between our words, hovering like heat. On her last night before returning to Denver, Lily looked at me with the same fierce tenderness I once used to look at her. "You did the right thing, Mom," she said. "You didn't just protect your house. You protected yourself." I smiled faintly. "Then why does it still hurt?" "Because love doesn't die just because it's betrayed," she said softly. "That's what makes it love." After she left, the days settled into a quiet rhythm. I watered the garden at sunrise, cooked only for myself, and played dominoes with my neighbor, Mrs. Graham, on Thursdays. I joined a church craft group, even went to the Saturday dance at the community center, where an old widower named Arthur asked if he could buy me coffee. He stepped on my toes twice, but he made me laugh, and that laughter felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me press accept. "Mom," the voice said, small and rough. "Ryan." I froze. It had been months. He told me he was working again. A smaller construction firm. Lower pay but steady hours. He said he was renting a room alone, cooking for himself, trying to grow up at 42. I listened, not saying much. Then came the words I'd been waiting for, not to hear, but to feel their weight. "I'm sorry," he said. "No excuses. I hurt you. I stole from you. I don't want forgiveness. I just needed you to know I'm changing." For a long time, I said nothing. Finally, I whispered, "Words are easy, Ryan. Change takes work." "I know," he said quietly. "I'm trying." That night, I sat in the garden, phone still in my lap, staring at the stars peeking over the roofline. Maybe he would change, maybe not. But either way, I had stopped carrying his guilt. That burden was his now. Weeks passed. Neighbors told me they'd seen Vanessa at the grocery store in another town, working behind a counter, her once perfect nails chipped. Ryan kept his distance but called every few weeks, briefly, humbly. I didn't open my door to him, but I answered the phone. Sometimes that was enough. Peace didn't come as music or laughter. It came in small things. The sound of my wind chime, the smell of chamomile tea, the click of the front gate locking each night. It came with edges, sharp reminders that safety was something I had to defend, not wait for. One evening, as the desert sky turned violet, I stood in my restored bedroom. My husband's photograph hung where it belonged, beside the window. The repaired glass caught the fading light, and for a moment it looked like he was smiling at me again. I sat on the bed, the same bed they had once taken from me, and ran my hand over the polished wood. "We endured," I whispered. That was my prayer, my victory, my closure. Because survival, I'd learned, wasn't soft. It was steel wrapped in skin. And when I turned off the light, my heart felt steady, full. Not because everything was perfect, but because for the first time in years, everything was mine.